Hey there, Sarah with Next Gen Medium. I'm a psychic medium intuitive. Another way I like to say that is that I'm aware and utilize my psychic mediumship intuitive abilities. I think everybody's capable of these abilities, and that is my mission. One, for you to open up the door for that being a possibility, and two, to help get you to that point where you can see it for yourself and then you're off and running on your own. So one of the things I like to do, not only talk about development and my experience, but is to go to Reddit and see what kind of questions people have. I think looking at other people's questions or other people's insights helps me understand my own just a little bit more. And I think in being able to hear me discuss it, you might be able to connect with something to achieve one of my two missions, which is for you to open up that possibility, maybe by connecting with something I have to say that resonates with your own experience, or two, maybe gives you a little more insight on your own experiences, seeing how closely related your experiences are to already experiencing your intuition or your psychic abilities or your mediumship abilities. Sometimes we experience these things and don't realize what they really are. And we just get used to it and don't understand that that's something that is experienced as a piece of your psychic or mediumship skills, or your intuition, how it talks to you. You listen to it, you don't know how it talks to you. But anyway, we're going to go to Reddit and see what kind of question we got this time around. We're going to the subreddit of spirituality. And here is the question. Very straightforward. A lot of upvotes on this already. Let's see, 29 comments. So I haven't looked at any of the comments, but when you're open to truth and aligned with who you are, sometimes looking at other people's comments, after you kind of come to your own conclusion, you'll find that there comes to be a common thread. And I think it's just being a human being. So let's take a look at this question. I think this is an interesting one. Does anyone else feel that the more you spiritually evolve, the less you want to communicate with others? I've become a hermit. I know it's not healthy, but it seems harder and harder to relate to others, especially when we are on different wavelengths. Does this effect eventually wear off and your social abilities ignite? Question mark. I think this is different for different people. For me, I think one of my ways of coping with sensitivities, I was a pretty sensitive kid. I was affected by emotion very deeply. I don't know if that is across the board for all kids, but for me, that's how I grew up. So I actually coped by becoming a hermit, not realizing or being aware that this could be connected to spiritual stuff or whatever. I just had a hard time with a lot of things. And I think one of the big things was judgment of others. I had a hard time with that. Being around other people and just completely paralyzed by what people were thinking, which looking back and being the person that I was, I think people may be surprised by that was a big concern of mine. And it evolved into a lot of anxieties. And then a lot of my anxieties would come forth when I was around people. So, and even manifest physically because of it. So that was my way of coping. As the years have gone on and I've stretched beyond my comfort zones many, 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 many times, I became a more social person, much more comfortable with being myself, knowing what myself even meant. I think once I had my spiritual awakening, I kind of see that as sort of a big jump in my spiritual self because it became much more of a conscious focus. And with that, I actually feel like I wanted to communicate with people much greater. So because I'd spent a lifetime trying to gain my own voice and trying to be okay with my own self and all these other things, I think evolving spiritually made me want to be more social and communicate. That's one of my themes in this lifetime is what is my voice and how do I use it and what am I passionate to express? And it has evolved into my purpose of helping other people do that and finding that for themselves. So I think it's different for different people. I can understand, however, from your viewpoint of being able to relate to others when you have a much broader view and a different priority system and different ways of going about things. I can totally understand how that's hard. I feel it every day. I actually went to a party this weekend and I felt like a fish out of water because I was like, it's not that I don't want to drink. It's that it just causes so many problems. I don't want to drink and then be unable to function the next day and then deal with stomach problems for 3 days. And like, that doesn't do it for me anymore. But I went to a party around a bunch of people I didn't know. Everybody was having a good time. The food was amazing. The food was really good. But, I still feel that sense of, connection that I want to make at a deeper level that maybe other people don't. And there are times when I wear it on my sleeve, where I feel like, is this person perceiving that I'm being condescending? Like, is this person feeling like I'm belittling them because of what I say? And which never is my intent. My intent is just, I appreciate you. And maybe people will spin it a different way for whatever personal reason they have, but that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to be pure, my truth, and just let that out, and however they take it. Like, I have no control over that. So it does get to the point where it's like, how much energy am I going to spend on worrying about it? What makes me feel good is to let people know that I appreciate them or that I'm grateful for them or that I think their future could be a lot more satisfying if they went with that passion that they love to do or, stuff like that. So I understand feeling like you're on different wavelengths. And does this effect usually wear off and your social abilities reignite? I will say there's waves in how this has worked for me since my sort of spiritual awakening. I would say I was much more in another realm when I was in my spiritual awakening phase. And then the real world, the physical world, or however you want to term that, the reality that human beings share, the downer place, it has come back. And in some ways, I really miss that spiritual awakening place. And I feel like I can tap into it every once in a while and kind of feel just a fraction of that awe that was at that time. So I would say use your intuition, use your inspiration. Don't worry about those social things. I think that's probably the hardest part with spirituality is it's so personal. That's you. That's, you're with you for your whole life. And sometimes that can really change your social relationships. Sometimes it's time to move on from some relationships. You kind of have a different perspective and see what these relationships are actually consist of. And maybe you're like, you know what? I can let that go. And that can be hard as part of your journey. But then you're allowing for other people to come in and to challenge you, inspire you, lift you. And that's kind of the reward. So my answer, does anyone feel like you want to communicate less with others? I would say that there's a yes and no to that, depending on your experience. So for me, I wanted to be more sociable, but less likely to want to talk about small talk. I think that's a waste of time. Who cares about the weather? It's always changing. It's going to be different in a couple of days. What's happening right now? That's all that really matters. Does this effect wear off and your social abilities ignite? Again, depends on your journey and how much you want to resist or go with the flow. And it's in waves. So it depends on how adventurous you want to be. Those are my answers. Interesting theory kind of stuff in here. But if you want to get to the nitty gritty of spirituality, what it takes to see those psychic, intuitive, mediumship, healing abilities, to start building the foundation on just the things you need to know, go to my website, nextgenmedium.com. I've got an e-guide for you that's supposed to be pretty short. Just the basics, nothing that colors in things that have to do with your own theory, your own truth. These are just laying out the foundation and getting you started on seeing things for yourself. For me, discovering my soul abilities was a way for me to open up my spirituality. That's how it all began. And once I was able to have that possibility of being able to connect as a medium, I had my spiritual awakening. And then it was through that just started the ball rolling on experimenting with psychic abilities and mediumship abilities and learning what my intuition was. It took about a year of practicing psychic and mediumship for me to distinguish where my intuition was and all that, because it was so wrapped up in it. So if you want to get on that journey and just have a guide that doesn't give you bullshit and just is right to the point, go to my website, nextgenmedium.com, and you can download. There are different versions of it. There's an EPUB version, which if you have an e-reader, you can just do it that way. I have a PDF version if you want to print it off. I also have a Kindle version, not my favorite, gonna be honest. I think the other two ways are much better, and PDF is probably the best. And I think it's $7.99. So go to my website, check that out. And you can also become a member at nextgenmedium.com, where you can have access to my whole podcast, all 63 episodes, binge it. And I also do a membership blog where I get a little more in depth with stuff, with these kinds of questions, with the stuff that's on Reddit that people are talking about. These kind of more in-depth questions, more towards people that are developing and are experiencing, as opposed to our, geez, I'm interested in this kind, in this subject and where I could go with this, if this is even a thing. This is kind of the next step, that membership stuff. So that's $14 a month, and you can sign up and get to it right away. So go to nextgenmedium.com, see my stuff. Thank you for watching, and look out for the next vlog video coming your way. Thanks for watching.